Hello there. Welcome to Blitz Transmissions. This is the Blitzcast episode 5. I'm Tommy. Before we get into the content of this episode, as usual, make sure to check out all the links in the description below. That being my Discord, if you want to get in touch with other Star Wars fans, collectors, things of that nature. And also make sure to check out my Instagram page for the channel, as well as I have a separate Instagram page specifically for all of my collection updates and all my pickups. And it kind of gives you a sneak peek as to what's going to get reviewed next for the channel. Today on the Blitzcast, we have a very special guest, YouTube star Hybrid Toy Reviews, straight from the Kingdom of Ohio. Hybrid, how are we doing?
Feeling pretty skibbity, my guy.
Feeling pretty skibbity, Sigma, Ohio.
Always.
All right. So also make sure to check out all of Hybrid's links. Will be in the description for this video as well. So if you're listening on Spotify, if you're watching on YouTube, all Hybrid's links for his YouTube channel, his Instagram page, and his X page will be in the description, and his fanfics will also be in the description too.
Hey.
So Hybrid, what's new in the life of Hybrid? We are here together right now for a very special reason.
Always. We have ICCC coming up.
Yeah, boy.
And if you're watching this, we're already there.
We've already been there for a few days at this point by the time you're seeing this.
Oh, yeah. So, no, I am incredibly excited, not only to see the mildly attractive Tommy, but the whole gang, the entire gang, all of them. The recently announced very attractive Commander Cook.
Yeah, the dashing young man that is Commander Cook, dude. I'm so excited. It's kind of crazy, actually, because, for so long, I think we talked to him almost every day, either on Xbox or on Instagram. So, I'm used to hearing his voice and, I watch his videos. I hear his voice all the time. And I don't know about you, but, his face, to me, doesn't match what I imagined.
No.
His voice to be,
No, I had a mental picture, and the mental picture wasn't bad, but
the mental picture was not as attractive as the man actually is,
and the mental picture was still attractive. I mean, but it was a few months back. I remember we were talking on Xbox one night, and he was like, "Oh man, everyone's vlogging. I wonder if you guys can blur out my face." And I'm like, "I'm not doing that."
No, I said the same.
Yeah. And he's like, "Okay, I guess I'll do a face reveal." So you're welcome. We did that for you.
That was us, actually. Yeah, we'll be taking 10% of the pay cut from the revenue on that video.
Absolutely.
So we're going to ICCCon. We're going to be meeting up with a whole gaggle of geese as far as YouTube friends go, including Justin and Nate from Out of the Basement. We're going to be rooming with 212 Hunter, Commander Cook, Skywalker Hendricks, Commander Bly, Cheesy Napkin, Logan, as you've seen on the Blitzcast a couple times now.
We'll be meeting up with Mike and Zach from Black Series Cantina. Luke Ness Monster's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Monday Night Figure Ball.
Yeah, Monday Night Figure Ball. Wilbon and the gang.
Yeah,
so.
It's gonna be a really, really fun time. I just know, especially that first day, it's just gonna be complete and utter chaos.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, aside from that, Hybrid, you have some special pickups that you got today.
Oh yeah.
As far as collecting goes.
So I spent all weekend, this past weekend, looking at different Walmarts because the Ahsoka and Thrawn waves started dropping. And after giving up on that, I went to my local Walmart today for cat food, and they were just on the shelf.
Dude.
So I was able to pick up the new Thrawn, Ahsoka. I got the Imperial Armored Commando, and then I got the Darth Maul with the rubber skirt instead of a soft goods skirt. And these are all just amazing pickups, and they all look very, very good. And I can't believe I found them. I was looking at the pegs, and my Walmart has had the Andor or the Acolyte figures there for a minute. So the square boxes don't excite me anymore, and I kept looking back, what am I missing? And I realized I'm looking at Black Coat Cassian, and behind him was the rest of the wave. So I was just like, oh my gosh. So that was good.
Dude. That's awesome. I have mine are all in my big bad pile of loot. I think I'm waiting on one other figure right now to drop in that I got an email for. So once that pre-order processes, I'm just going to ship the whole thing. I'm assuming that'll happen while we're on the way tomorrow to ICCCon. But yeah, aside from that, I mean, I really think we should get into the topic of this week's podcast. If you couldn't tell by the title, this is Hot Takes with Hybrid. So Hybrid and I have a running joke going on. I coined the term Munger Principle. Is a term that we use for when Hybrid has an extremely hot take, whether it be regarding Star Wars or some other phenomena. And he states this hot take like it's, just the common man's opinion. And it's always been the kicking off point of a lot of very intense debates and conversations between you, myself, and Hunter, aka the Senate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and what they fail to understand is, as the king of Ohio, as king, what I think is right is the common man's opinion. Otherwise, you're wrong. So I'm always right, no matter what. And it's not actually a debate. It's not actually a discussion.
This guy, dude.
You guys are just crossing, borders that shouldn't be crossed. So I'm a very forgiving king, though.
That's good. That's good.
Very gracious.
So we thought it would be fun to, just a very chill topic this week to just kind of go through some Star Wars hot takes that we both have. Just kind of sharing, different opinions that we have that are very fiery and will definitely fire up some people. Make sure to let us know in the comment sections how angry these hot takes make you. Oh, yeah. So Hybrid, you want to kick things off with a hot one?
Okay, I got one. I'm just going to come right out and trigger you. Your dad's going to burst through that door like on the Guild.
On the Guild, yeah.
So that's a memory. Honestly, I think that the physical costumes for the clone troopers in Kenobi, Ahsoka, Andor is a better look than the 05 CG models because it actually fits human proportions. The CG models were stubby, and the fact that you have to put that helmet on in like 2 or 3 pieces, even though it's a helmet that's supposed to slip on, is my entire argument for it.
Dude, that's So I think the craziest part is I kind of agree with you. My opinion on the live action costumes has definitely softened over time. I think obviously it was very jarring seeing them for the first time after, because it is very different looking from what we are used to with Revenge of the Sith. Up till what was it? Book of Boba Fett was the first time we had seen clones in any form of live action since, and those guys were even CG in Boba Fett, right? It wasn't until Kenobi.
Well, yeah, they were like background flashback memory things. I mean, it wasn't they weren't prevalent. Kenobi was, I think, where we actually first saw the costumes, and the first episode started with the Order 66 in the temple, and before the episode was out, I just remember seeing tweets pop up.
I think for me, one of the biggest things I don't like about the live action suits is how shiny they are. Yeah. Clones have always been very matte. In whether it's Attack of the Clones, they are a little bit shinier in Attack of the Clones, but specifically the Phase 2 armor, which they use a lot of in Revenge of the Sith, is very matte, and they also show that in the animated stuff. I know there's only so much that you can bring in from animated stuff, but they do a good job in the animated shows of the difference between something that's shiny and something that's matte. So I think for me, that's my biggest thing that's off-putting for me,
right?
Is the look of the armor itself. In addition to that, I will say I think Ahsoka just also had a lot of wardrobe malfunctions that I hated, and it really doesn't help my disdain for the look of the live action armor. I don't mind the bigger gaps in the joint areas, so that the armor can actually be moved in. What I do mind is when Ahsoka's leaning over the one clone that's injured and has his face covered up, the forearm armor is just it's those bracelets when you were a kid, you'd slap it on your wrist and it wraps over itself.
You see it unfolding while it's out
there. And to me that just looks very cheap, and I could tell that it was not intentional. And then there was the famous Captain Rex having his arms on backwards. Oh my god.
All I'm saying is, for the show that Dave was the most hands-on with, sure had a lot of lore breaks.
It did.
In the armor, at least.
But I fully blame the costuming department for that. They totally blew it with that.
I just can't believe that Dave walked out and looked at that and didn't say, fix that.
I also just can't believe that they didn't consult people who are in the 501st Legion more than they did, in my opinion, than they should have. Because I just know that the 501st Legion could have helped them come up with a more accurate looking, made it look more like Revenge of the Sith while still giving the better movement, so they can achieve the better stuff. I mean, personally, I think Hot Toys does a good job. They really increase that gap between the cod piece and the thigh so that you can move them around more and they can bend almost a full 90 degrees. That is... Overall, though, it's a nitpick. I will admit that the clone armor thing for me is a total nitpick because ultimately it means nothing.
Right, and they, again, Munger principle. They laugh at me. I always say the squint test, which is if you just step back and you don't hyper focus on it, it looks like a clone trooper.
If I paint a Dobby action figure green and I stand back, and I squint my eyes, it's basically Grogu.
Right.
Basically Yaddle.
Right. I'm with you.
I know my dad's he's gonna rip your face off over that one, and he won't even know until 3 days into our trip.
We're gonna be having a good time, and we're gonna wake up Friday morning at 9.
Yeah,
and he'll have been up listening to the show, and he's gonna walk out, and he's gonna knock my Cheerios out of my hand.
You're gonna walk in, he's gonna just be sitting there like this at the table, just brooding over how he's gonna kill you.
Yeah, he's just gonna be like, you know what you've done.
Hybrid, we're going to squeeze you into one of those CGI costumes. It's like the Springtrap, 5 Nights at Freddy's. Anyways, but all right, here's my hot take, and I feel like your next one is probably going to jump into this too. The Last Jedi is an overhated Star Wars movie.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Egregiously overhated. And my reasoning, specifically, my hot take is... Luke Skywalker's arc in that movie was a good arc for his character.
100% agree.
Yeah,
I've told people forever, and I tried to steer them to the conclusion. Who trained Luke Skywalker?
Obi-Wan and Yoda.
And what did they do when their Jedi Order fell?
They went into hiding
to protect their knowledge.
Yeah,
because. And think about it, if you're the last Christian standing, you take your Bible and you hide so someone else may read it someday. So Luke did exactly as trained. He trained a bunch of, children. They were working their way up the ranks, and then it got wiped out. Well, let me not stand here in the field and get sniped. I'm going to go into hiding. Mm-hmm. It's absolute total sense. And you know what? After a few years, anyone would be jaded.
That's my biggest thing is I do understand that it's very jarring going from Luke in Return of the Jedi, jumping 30 years, and then seeing Luke in Last Jedi where he is a completely different person. However, there's a key phrase there. There's a 30-year gap. Mm-hmm. That's always been my biggest thing that I say to people. And you also have to consider that complacency is a very real thing. And I like Luke's arc because it shows that he, too, is human. And then he saves the day in the most heroic way by killing himself. No, he saves the day by stopping the First Order from being able to completely eradicate the Resistance.
Right. He's still the same Luke Skywalker because he was able to get himself out of his funk and go save the day like the Jedi he always was. Mm-hmm. I remember there was an interview on my season 1 of the Clone Wars DVD box set.
Yeah.
It was on the episode where they were rescuing Aayla Secura and Anakin got injured. And
Mm-hmm.
And Dave Filoni was talking about how he wanted to do that early on to show that Jedi aren't superheroes. They're not infallible. Being a Jedi isn't making you a superhero. It's a faith is all it is. And people of any faith can get hurt or lose their way.
And they stray and then they come back. And it happens all the time.
And just because it comes with enhanced abilities in this universe doesn't mean that you can't lose your faith. Mm-hmm. He everything went wrong, and he needed some time to self-reflect, and he came to the conclusion that he needed to be who he used to be.
He became grossly complacent over the course of I would argue maybe 20 to 25 years. He had a vision that his nephew was going to destroy everything, and he had a fleeting moment of a lapse in judgment, draws his lightsaber, and realizes, no, this is not who I am. However, it's too late because his nephew saw, oh, my uncle's about to kill me, and then burned everything down. Mm-hmm. So I really do think that it's grossly exaggerated how bad it is, because I don't think it's bad at all. I do think it's one of the most powerful arcs for me personally in all of Star Wars. So
I'm right with you.
Yeah.
And I'll openly say Last Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie.
Third favorite for me.
Yeah, and day one I walked out of the theater, I was a little like, I don't know about this, but rewatching it and just seeing how things have settled, I love every aspect of that story.
For sure.
And it's refreshing in a devastating way having a movie where the heroes don't win.
Yeah, right.
And for the same reason that so many people like Empire. It's not about the good guys winning. That movie was about the good guys getting away.
It's not about winning. It's about fun.
Right. So, which all movies should be in the end, really.
Yeah, right.
So if you're not enjoying it, go do something else.
So, I feel like this would draw very heavily into one of your famous hot takes, which is going to ruffle a lot of feathers.
That the sequels are better than the originals?
Yes.
That is. So, yeah. I can sense the mass thumbs downs coming in right now at the 16 minute
I can feel a disturbance in David Edge's house right now. I feel David Edge is going to begin commenting right now. His thumbs are going crazy right now.
I can feel your anger strike me down and take your father's place at my side.
As if millions of voices cried out and were suddenly silent.
So, I'm just gonna go out. People, first off, they always want to say that the sequels are disconnected and there wasn't a plan, and probably not. They probably, because they originally,
not from director to director. Definitely not. No.
Well, and having 3 different directors, which was the original plan,
and then one of them dropping out.
And then going back to JJ, that's just...
going back to Mr. Mystery Box.
Honestly, they really from the jump, should have just picked a director for the trilogy. That could have fixed some of these...
I even feel like just having one writing team or one writer for all 3 movies, then you could do 3 directors all day.
Right. Right, the directors are just doing it. Mm-hmm. But let's not pretend that the original trilogy was a big planned out thing too. George had ideas for sequels, but it was originally just Star Wars, and
he was ready for it to be completed there.
Right, and then it became the smash hit it was, and then reruns had Episode 4: A New Hope added to it. It didn't have Episode 4 in that first opening crawl in '77 in theaters, and you're gonna tell me that Star Wars starts and you got this farm boy, and he's going to save the princess, which is a tale as old as time as far as fairy tale romances go. And then in the second one, the princess slips him some tongue before falling in love with the pirate. And then, they were siblings all along. Like you're telling me that George Lucas had incest fantasies from 1975 onwards.
And it wasn't weird because they didn't know.
Right. And I just there are some that's one of the most obvious things to me where it's just like it was never it was just George later on was like, oh, what a twist, and ignored all of the sexual tension that he'd been building between them for the entire time. And honestly, no wonder they didn't hang out much after those movies. Things were awkward. But it's not if you're going to say that, not being planned out is a crime, then the original trilogy is the biggest problem of them all. And the prequels actually had a plan throughout because he had a story to tell. He had to get from kid to Vader by the end of those. There had to have been a line, whereas he was winging it for the originals. And I think that the sequels objectively stand up as better movies. Mm-hmm. People want to... throw out, that Luke trained with Yoda for 3 days and thought he could take on Vader. Well, they didn't really give Rey a shot. I mean, she was getting her shit handed to her, in every fight she was in that movie. I think that was realistic for Last Jedi. And I think the biggest problem with Rise of Skywalker, which I love, I think it's a great movie, is they had to write around Carrie Fisher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, at that point, you kind of just have to work with what footage you got, because they said that they won't CG her and they won't recast her. And so at that point, we're working with unused footage, and you kind of just have to tell whatever story fits.
Kind of a sidebar here. What do you think they're going to end up doing with her? Because they've already name dropped her and they've really revealed a lot about her in the Ahsoka season 1. So what do you think they're going to end up doing with her, with Leia's character in this timeline here?
As far as Mandoverse, it wouldn't shock me if we just don't see her.
Yeah.
I could totally see her operating from behind the scenes and sending 3PO whenever she needs a Senate appearance, or we might be introduced to some character that's actually, her assistant.
Right.
Or, I mean, I'm because they've decided they're not going to reuse that model from Rogue One, and, and they might back down. They because as soon as she was gone, they basically said no more Slave Leia anything, and now we have a new minifigure coming in, like the new sail barge Lego set finally, and so maybe they are retracting those claws a little bit.
They have retracted the claws a lot. I mean, just from the character selection we've seen from like Black Series, Hot Toys, Jazzwares, everything has been getting a lot more diverse with the types of media that we're choosing, which has been great. I've really been enjoying that. Here's a hot take for you. And I already know, it's funny because some of these hot takes, we agree with each other, so it's not really a hot take. Season 1 of the Clone Wars is good.
Oh, yeah.
I have heard a lot of people say that Season 1 of the Clone Wars is, like, garbage. Like, I can completely understand the idea that it's a lot more, like, for kids. But my hot take is Season 1 of the Clone Wars is better than Season 1 of Rebels. That's my hot take. Because I remember, like, every time I watch Season 1 of Rebels and I'm, like, watching the whole, who is this kid?
Yeah.
Who is that kid? I think they're going to break out into song and dance. Whereas with, you look at the opening episode of the Clone Wars and it's Yoda with 3 clone troopers teaching them life lessons and teaching them to be better soldiers and better people. And the underlying, theme of, trying to win planets over to each side during the war. So, I don't know. I kind of feel like it's I'm also biased because I grew up with the Clone Wars and not Rebels.
Right.
But I think Clone Wars Season 1 is better.
I'm with you, especially and Rebels is my favorite animated show. Typically on my rewatch, I start with the middle of Season 1 with that SIBO arc and go from there. Because those first few episodes, I think they were just trying to get some kids interested, get some toy sales, and then start telling their story. And it's bizarre how the show that started with, who is this kid, led us to a very compelling brush with the dark side arc in Season 3. Like Rebels went hard when it went hard, and it stumbled for a few episodes in the beginning.
Yeah.
Clone Wars Season 1 is good. A spin-off hot take from it, I think the Clone Wars movie is good. I don't think there's bad Clone Wars.
Ooh, okay. I will say I don't think the Clone Wars movie is bad either. Again, biased because I watched it as a kid in the theater. I do think it should have just been aired as episodes of the show, which was the original intention.
Right.
And then George Lucas last second was like, no, we're going to put these out. Smash the first 4 together. We're going to put them out as a movie.
I mean, it got attention.
It did.
A show just popping up on Cartoon Network, by naming it Star Wars, you'll do better than most shows on Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
But it was the trend at the time, too, before we got a Kung Fu Panda 7-season animated show, I mean, that was like the thing, is like you would get an animated movie and then a multiple season thing. Jimmy Neutron started that way, and so many other classics, from our childhood, where you got an animated movie and the movie was great, and then you got an animated show that never referenced anything that happened in the movies. and
we saw Rhoda again, right?
We saw Rhoda in Jabba's hand in his palace in the season 3 Zero the Hutt episode with Quinlan Vos.
And then Jabba ate him.
Yep, we never ever saw him again. And instead of making Rhoda the Hutt want to take over Jabba's territories in the Book of Boba Fett, we got 2 random Hutt twins that we've never seen before or since.
Dude, you and I should cosplay those Hutt twins for Halloween.
Oh, we need some green paint, bud.
So we find me some frogs.
Yep. You can be the hot one.
I can be that. And we can have Logan be the one that carries us around on the dais,
He'll cry.
He'll cry.
He'll cry.
And then Hendrix can be our Rancor.
Yep. Yeah. So, oh man.
Yeah, dude. I do have another one, and you definitely agree with this one.
Probably.
The Acolyte deserved a season 2.
Oh, it deserved.
The Acolyte deserved a season 2, if not just to wrap up the damn story.
Mm-hmm.
That's my hot take there.
I'm not going to be satisfied with whatever Marvel comic or novel that comes out. I want to see it. I want to, visualize and understand and, feel, the power of acting. And the people that didn't like the show decided they didn't like it 6 months before it came out.
Right.
And I'm not saying that it was groundbreaking, revolutionary Star Wars, but I did the 3-day early screening down in Pittsburgh, and I remember just sitting there in the theater and it going into it, you're like, okay, it's like 150 years before the prequels, so it's kind of like what we might get with the Rey movie coming up, where there's not going to be a Skywalker. That saga is so far removed.
Did you hear, though, that the Rey movie might be on just indefinite hold?
Everything they announce is on indefinite.
It's so frustrating.
They go to D23, they say Star Wars is alive, here's 24 movies, and then none of them come out year after year after year. But I just remember sitting in that theater, though, and feeling like I did when I was a kid watching The Phantom Menace for the first time. I was just like, whatever's going to happen is going to be completely unrelated. There's not going to be any references. It's going to be a standalone story. Yeah. And I remember just getting chills, like good chills, watching it. Not that it was outstanding, but just that
the first couple episodes were really, really good. Yeah.
Right, the whole seeing Maeve deal with Master Indara in the bar, and then seeing Osha wake up. And, I mean, that first episode, I just remember thinking, like, is she, like, under a spell? Does she do stuff when she's asleep and not remember?
She's schizo? Like, what's going on?
Right, well, she's schizo, she's my type. But, but I just remember not worrying about what's this relating to that I already know about. I was just completely engrossed in a new story, and every episode was so good. I mean, I liked that we got the 2 different flashback episodes to actually give the different perspectives.
Yep.
Because the first one, I remember even right after it came out, I was like, that's not the real version. That's what the girls are remembering. The girls that have been told what happened, even though they were there. And, like, I like everything about the show. I'm not saying it's my most favorite, but it's not far down the list.
I think what killed me, and you know this, but I think what killed me for the show was I never got attached to Osha and May, and it just really detracted so much enjoyment for me of the series. That being said, the fight scenes, dude, the combat in that show, they need to just fire everyone else and give that choreographer access to all the Star Wars fights for all the future live action content.
Oh, easy.
If you're not going to get Nick Gillard back from the prequels, then you need to just take whoever. I think this is the same guy that did all the choreography for Shang-Chi.
Yes.
And so they just need to give him the reins. That might even be a hot take in itself too,
I just came up with a hot take right here. And it's a tie-in.
Oh, dear God.
I thought every episode was good. I thought the overall story, while some elements are predictable, I thought that it was overall very enjoyable, and I liked all the characters, and I liked the general plot.
Yeah.
Forget Taika Waititi and forget, I'm totally blanking on his name, the Last Jedi director.
Rian Johnson.
Rian Johnson. They're fine. Give Leslie Headland a series, or give her a movie or something, because I think that she has the ability to tell something really good.
I think what really killed The Acolyte for me as well was they did a writer's room. However, it came out that they had 4 different writing teams, and each team was in charge of 2 episodes. So one team was in charge of 1 and 2, one was in charge of 3 and 7, one was in charge of, I think, 4 and 5, and then one did 6 and 8.
Right.
And it obviously is going to become disjointed. And when you think about the show that way, you're like, oh, now it makes a lot of sense. You can kind of see how the show was definitely like written in these pairs, and in just the pairs of episodes, they're very coherent.
Oh yeah.
But it's in that way that it kind of feels like characters switch their motivations on a dime and things like that, because it was a completely different group of people writing these characters. They got, hey, this is what this character's like from Leslie Headland.
Right.
And then they were like, and she just said, here, do what you want.
That explains, because and one of my favorite characters is Yord.
Yeah.
And that explains why in some episodes he was just the stone cold, I'm a perfect textbook Jedi, but in other episodes he would have a soft moment, Yep. He was taking Osha away in the 5th episode, and then like, come on, we got to help our friends, and he's just like, yep, I'll deviate from this order, something he would never do, or hadn't done yet, and then that's character evolution too.
Yeah.
But different writers, write them different ways. So I hadn't heard that. That actually, let's not do that again.
Because a lot of people were praising the idea of a writer's room before the show came out, and giving it a lot of credit for that. That's the first time that a Star Wars series has done something like that. Right. However, I'm not a fan of, at no point was there, let's all put our heads together and make sure this all connects. It was pretty much, I'm just going to be a yes man for any idea that anyone has, and we'll just make it work later.
Well, and the thing is you keep saying writer's room, but the thing about a writer's room is all the writers are in the same room.
Writers rooms, yeah.
Yeah, it's just not what they were doing. I mean, several writers' rooms is not a writer's room.
No. But Acolyte is, I have all my action figures off screen here. They're awesome. The action figures are so good, and it literally makes me so sad every time I look at that shelf, and I'm like, dude, I wish I loved that show more, and I wish that they would have continued the story, even if just for 8 more episodes. Just give me the conclusion. I want to know what happens, I want to know what's going on at the Plagueis Diddy party,
So he was keeping Chimera away from his baby oil in the cave. He found a natural spring of it.
A natural spring on the Cortosis mines.
Yep. So it's actually the primary ingredient.
The planet is called Baldemnik. It's actually what it's called.
Really?
Yeah.
Right.
It's very on the nose.
Yeah, honestly.
But
I got one more if you're running out.
All right, no, go ahead.
So this I'll say it's not original.
Okay.
But I've heard some people say it when they want to say a wild hot take.
Okay.
Rey is absolutely a Skywalker.
Oh, that's all day. That's all day.
So, and the downvotes just keep hitting.
Ow, ow. My ratings. Yeah, Rey is one of my not my favorites.
Right.
I deeply appreciate Rey, and I like her most in The Rise of Skywalker.
Agreed.
Yeah. She felt like an actual character in The Rise of Skywalker that actually was struggling with something.
Right. I just think, and there's real world examples, but she's been looking for her identity her entire trilogy.
Yeah.
And she finally finds out that her last name is that of the worst dictator in galactic history.
Yeah.
And do you know how many people of a certain family name that started with H changed their last name after World War II?
Started with H and ended with Hitler? Yeah.
Didn't know if we were allowed to say the Hitler word here. But no, I mean, there are, I mean, and I saw a documentary like a week ago on YouTube about the descendants of him, you know, nephews or whatever, that they changed their last name because it's just so associated with evil.
Yeah.
And you think that she's just going to be like, well, I'm going to restore honor to the Palpatine name.
Nah.
No, you can't do that. The amount of... I mean, again, with the Hitler allegation, he ruined one planet. I mean, Palpatine ruined a galaxy, you know?
He killed zillions of people.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, one Death Star outdid all of, you know, the real world stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like... You know, there's no cleansing the blood from that name.
No, I agree.
And so she was like, well, do I just keep being Rey No Name, something that I've had a problem with for the duration of the series? Or do I take the last name of a dead family who several members of have been very important to me in my training and my upbringing?
Yeah.
So I'm completely okay with it. Like, it's, and now Skywalker isn't this legendary super special title. It's just a name now, which is okay because the Skywalker saga is over.
Yeah, it is.
So.
Thankfully.
Right.
And here's a good one. Here's another hot take here. So this hot take is one, I don't think you're going to agree with me on this one.
So
Barriss Offee's story in Tales of the Empire was underwhelming and disappointing.
I actually agree.
Really?
Hunter's the one with a crush on her, not me. So I'm not gonna just. I'm not.
I know a lot of people disagree with me on this. As someone who grew up with when the Clone Wars ended, knowing that Barriss just went to jail, and assuming that she died there. You know, then we find out about Inquisitors when Rebels comes out, and you're like, okay, maybe Barriss became an Inquisitor. You're left wondering for a decade, what happened to Barriss Offee? And then the show comes out, and it was like, that sucked, and she was involved with another character that I never cared about to begin with.
Yeah. No, it was just a big nothing burger.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
It was just, I mean, and that I could even say that for Tales of the Empire. Some of the Thrawn stuff was cool. And the Morgan Elsbeth story wasn't bad.
It was fine.
But, yeah, and that's it. I just remember being amped. Because Tales of the Jedi was so good.
All the Ahsoka, all the Dooku.
Yeah.
So intriguing, so lore heavy, and, you know, yeah.
And I just remember sitting down the day it dropped, putting it on, getting through the Morgan Elsbeth story, and going, that was okay. The Barriss one's where it's going to shine. And it did not shine.
Dude, Jen and I hated that one. We hated it.
The Inquisitor story, everyone had been asking for it forever. I mean, doing it at this point, kind of a cop-out. Don't blame them for doing it. It was just, you know, it was either she died or she became an Inquisitor. There wasn't any alternative. Both. And although they leave her vaguely open-ended, you know, it's like, did she die? They did the Star Wars thing where, you know, you don't see a body, so like someday it may be, you know, she'll show up with a Fennec Shan gut, you know, and have some battle droid parts in there, you know.
My whole thing with it was like, this is the same character that in the Clone Wars was willing to bomb the Jedi Temple and kill innocent people to send the message that the Jedi are corrupt. Maybe in her head a noble cause, but dude, she's definitely no good guy.
Right.
And then she becomes an Inquisitor. She taps into the dark side, and then on one of her first missions with the what was her name?
Fourth sister.
Her name ended up being Lynn or something like that.
Yeah. We get a cat lady, and you don't even get a cool Thundercat's name for Hunter to crush on. It's Lynn.
And they go and they find one Jedi, and Barriss is like, no.
It's not the Jedi way. He must live.
I want to be a good guy now. And Force pushes her off, and then that's it.
Right. Well, you know, she was in jail for a while, and as you very much know, the prison system reforms and nothing else.
Yeah, it sure totally does.
So.
Yeah, But
no, I mean, I can kind of believe, she had some time to sit there and think about her actions, and oh man, Luminara must be embarrassed about me. And
the only thing about the whole story that I do buy would be Ahsoka forgiving her. Yes. I totally buy that, but again, that's a story where I would have wanted to see more of the in between. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't do it for me because it was all the hype of wondering what happened to this character. Oh, she does become an Inquisitor, and then immediately after that she becomes good,
right? And
then dies as a hermit.
I did like that she was involved in the Path.
Yes, me too. Which that needs to be its own show.
Honestly, the next show needs to be Tales of the Path.
I think it needs to be they are hiring for another animated Star Wars series.
And it's the Path.
I want it to be, let's bring in Quinlan Voss, Asajj Ventress, Omega. Let's bring in the Bad Batch. Let's bring in Obi-Wan. Let's bring in Captain Rex and Echo. Let's
Ahsoka.
All of these characters that were left open-ended from all these different series in this era. Cal Kestis, even.
Yeah, he could be involved in the Path.
Let's put them all together in one show where they fight the Empire. It doesn't have to be all these big bads. Just, you could give us some Inquisitors. You could give us some ISB and just throw in some familiar faces here and there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to end well. They can lose in the end for all I care.
Right.
I just would like to see this show kind of fulfill a lot of the unfinished storytelling from a lot of these other series.
Right. And it's such an interesting idea about there being an underground railroad for Jedi and Force sensitives. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think I'd prefer it to be a somewhat unexplored cast or new. I'd be okay if it was like Rowan and his crew, let's get a Wade series.
Wade!
But for reals, that could be more devastating if we see Wade in this show for a bit and find that he's actually a guy who's passionate about this job or something.
Star Wars has made me care about characters that are otherwise inconsequential with other media.
Mm-hmm. And just a series about a group of people that are getting people through the Path. Mm-hmm. And there's an episode where, oh man, we got some Jedi younglings. Let's take them here. And they land the ship, and Quinlan Voss is on the landing pad. It can just be a cameo series. I think it'd be great.
What's up? I've got Sigma Riz.
Get ready for Jedi summer camp, kids. Because that's what it'd be with him.
He's just him teaching him how to smoke weed and and cover up his scent, dude.
Let me tell you, kids, death sticks are medicinal. So
little trees do the trick, kids. Little trees. Oh god.
A bump of spice keeps the doctor away, kids.
The felony forest on the rearview mirror. That's all I.
No, I'm honestly, that's the show I want. And I think Ahsoka would tie in, because I think, it could go the standard animated route and just be a tragedy in the end.
Yeah.
Because when Vader runs into Ahsoka on the Sith Temple on Malachor, he's like, tell me where the Jedi are. And she's like, there are none. I think the Path is not around at that point anymore. I think it's been handled.
Yeah.
And so him interrogating her like that, I think it's a case of he strongly assumed she was involved, which maybe she was.
I've got a hot take if you're ready to be done with this topic.
Okay.
Revenge of the Sith is not an underrated masterpiece anymore.
How so? It's just...
So many people are saying that Revenge of the Sith is an underrated masterpiece that it's not underrated anymore.
Oh yeah, no,
it's
not overrated either. I think it's just you just got to remove the title and
it's call a good
it a
movie.
Masterpiece.
It's a good Star Wars movie. That's all there is to say on it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree.
That's my one. That's just a brief one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got one, and you're not gonna like it, but I've got some points.
Oh boy.
Andor is incredibly overhyped.
Yes. Okay. I think Andor is I would consider it like a dark horse show. You don't really, not a lot of people talk about it, but I think it's really good, but I don't think it's the direction that Star Wars should take with everything.
My big thing is so many people say, You know, it's so different from every Star Wars, and that's why I like it. But by following the logic of that argument, it means you don't like Star Wars. I have never been so bored watching a show. And there are so many episodes in this series where from the beginning to the end, nothing has happened. There was 2 episodes of the Cassian in prison arc where he wasn't even trying to get out of prison. Like, we just see him working on Death Star pieces.
Yeah, they're showing you how helpless the whole situation is.
Yeah, but I mean, like, 1 would have been plenty. And I just remember, like, sitting there, like, you know, like, Cassian goes to jail in the beginning of the first episode, and you see him getting acclimated to the setup, and like, okay, like, you're establishing this is a hopeless situation. Mm-hmm. And then the second episode is just, he's just in jail building pieces, and the guy from Thor was talking to Mon Mothma about Luthen Rael.
Oh, the guy from Fortnite, yeah.
Yeah, the guy from Fortnite. You know, Luthen Rael is just talking to Mon Mothma or running his shop and ultimately accomplishing nothing at the same time. And I'm just like, and at the end, you know, he's just still in jail making stuff. And I'm like, I need to start seeing some of these scenes where, you know, he's looking at the cameras and finding the blind spots and a little here and there, start establishing. Because then in the next episode, he's just like, I'm going to take this panel off the wall and break a pipe. Like, no, like, I wanted to see him, like, looking for flaws. You know, he's supposed to be this mastermind able to get out of any, you know, MacGyver situation. And you know, for a show about him joining the rebellion, I sure ain't seen the rebellion yet. Like,
well, I think that's going to be all season 2.
Right, you know? But now it's going to feel so rushed because we're getting because it's supposed to be like, what, like a year between each of the stories in season 2?
Yeah, so you're going to get 4 sets of 3 episodes. Mm-hmm. Each one is you're going to have each trilogy basically is going to be one mission that he goes on. So, and Krennic's going to be in it. Yep. K2SO is going to be in it. Mm. So I know Dedra's probably going to be back. I know our boy Cyril Karn is going to be back as well. Hopefully we get an action figure of Cyril.
Yeah.
This time around.
And, you know, as I said in the beginning, I found, you know, this new Wave of Black series. I couldn't even be bothered to grab the Black Coat Cassian. I mean, they're still swinging on the pegs.
Yeah, that show hasn't come out yet, though, too. So, I mean, it's only so much when you have multiple Cassians already.
Yeah.
You know, unless he does something really badass in that costume, I can totally understand not picking that up.
For you, sure. I've always been the guy that says I want my toys before the show.
Fair.
I ordered the Acolyte figures from Canada so I could get them 3 weeks before the first episode dropped. And, like, here I am, you know, with Cassian, K2, and Dedra, and K2 is a repack. I would pass no matter what. But, like, here's my opportunity to get the brand new look of Cassian, so, you know, when I'm watching it on my tablet in the bathtub, I can be playing with my toy. I don't even want it.
When I'm watching on my Leap Pad, I can...
Right. And my thing is, like, it's going to be 4 sets of 3 episodes. Mm-hmm. I'm probably just going to watch it in 4 segments. I'm just going to wait 3 weeks and then just bang
nothing
out
wrong
the
with that,
first arc.
though. Yeah.
But it was because I just remember because I did this first season episode to episode, and I just remember thinking so many times, "Wow, that was it." I waited a week for that.
Yeah.
Like nothing happened. Mm-hmm. But then on rewatch, I've actually liked it more. Yeah. Because I just binge it.
Yeah, because I think that show is one of those that you should go back and try and watch all in a row because I will admit, for a lot of fans, it was very underwhelming waiting an entire week and then kind of in a way getting a nothing burger. Mm-hmm. You know, you're just kind of getting a lot of just the same that you're not moving forward much from where you were. Right. Whereas with like the Ahsoka series, every episode took giant leaps and bounds in the plot.
Right.
Same with Mando season 3, which is also overhated, by the way.
Oh, Mando season 3 absolutely is overhated.
Yeah. But that's all I got. That's all I can think of right now for hot takes. Other than the big ones, you know, like the prequels aren't as bad as people say, or they
don't even say that anymore.
I know,
and I don't know how to make a hot take of it, but I think it's kind of cringe that people pretend that they were never disliked.
That's a hot take right there. Yeah, right. Is I will say the hot take is that the prequels were never hated. That's I would actually just say that's not a true statement.
Yeah, I think it's not even a hot take. Like, let's not pretend that Star Wars fans didn't put Ahmed Best on the side of that bridge. Like, the prequels were absolutely hated for the longest time, and unforgivably so. You know, the way that some people acted, and it's just they just weren't meant for you. If you think that the first 3 Star Wars movies were what was good, then enjoy watching 10% of the total content, you know, and let the rest of the fans enjoy, you know, what it is.
What they want to enjoy. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So that, I think, will wrap up our hot takes. Let us know what your Star Wars hot takes are in the description of the video. We have all the links for Hybrid again. Hybrid, is there anything else you want to briefly cover, or anything, you know, you want to talk about? Anything you got coming out for the channel soon?
Oh, I'm always working on reviews. There's a couple of Black Series bangers. You know, they look like bangers sitting next to me. ICCC vlogs. You know, I'm planning on doing mine in 2 parts.
Okay.
I'm gonna do part 1, I guess Tuesday night technically now, Tuesday through Friday, and then part 2 will be Saturday, Sunday, and Monday going home. So I think that will effectively cover it without it being an hour and a half long vlog. Because last year we were there for 4 days and it was like 50 minutes.
Yeah, so that's a lot of content.
I need to break it up a little bit, and I think I'm just going to do Monday and Tuesday for uploads. So keep an eye out for that. You'll see a lot of Blitz and a lot of the gang, and one more hot take. Major Melon's the best Mountain Dew, and I'm tired of pretending it's not.
Code Red.
Code Red.
Code Red.
Right. So my brother like swore at me when I said that.
I'm about to have a Code Brown in a couple minutes here. That's all I gotta say.
Well, I'm gonna go watch that instead of this.
Thank you guys again so much for watching another episode of the Blitzcast. Be sure to check out all the links in the description again, just like, you know, Hybrid's stuff. Make sure to go check out all his content. I actually did watch some of your old con tips videos, which actually have like a shit ton of views on them.
Yeah, I check in on them here and there.
Yeah.
Those were so fun to make. And because people, I mean, you or anyone else would just ask me, like, hey, Hybrid, you're the paint pen guy. Hey, where do you get your protectors? And I was like, I'm just going to make this info public. And I had so much fun making them. And then I ran out of tips. I mean, it was like, there's only so much you can do. Yeah,
but those are the type of videos where there's always going to be new people coming into, you know, the con-going hobby.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, that it's a perfect video.
Yeah,
know?
And I'm always trying to think of new ones, and if I come up with new ideas, there will be new con tips with Hybrid. I think I have them on a playlist. If not, it'd be a good one to do.
Who knows? Maybe Hunter will find something to bitch and cry about that will, you know, at the next convention, that'll make you decide to make a new best Dr. Scholl's insoles for people.
How to convince the vendors to bring me their 212 Order 66 pack clones.
We love you, Hunter. So with that, guys, thanks for watching another episode of the Blitzcast. We'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
I love you.
Hey.